A bit over a week ago, I decided to join my first game jam. For those of you who don't know what a game jam is, it's basically a competition where a bunch of game developers work either solo or in teams to make a game. Usually a theme is given to you and you have 10 days to build it, and since this game jam was during October, the theme was Halloween based. And the theme of this game jam was this image. Like, just this image. Usually game jams give you a written theme, but in this case, it was an image of a static TV. We also got a FBX file for the TV and we were encouraged to use it. And with that, the game jam started and I had 10 days to make a cool game that will possibly get someone's attention. On day 1, I felt like I had zero idea what game I could make. All I knew is that I wanted to use Unity, because I feel like Unity is a classic game engine for indie horror games that no one will ever play. The amount of small horror games that exist because of Unity is unreal. Ha, get it? Anyways, I could have chosen to make a 2D game or 3D game. It could have been something more fun or based around a mechanic or something more story based. I decided to go for something more story based since my first year of game design uni was basically all about storytelling. Since I was still out of ideas by the end of the day, I decided to start thinking backwards from the TV. What do all TVs have? VHS players. And what do VHS players need? VHS tapes. And what is on VHS tapes? Found footage. So I'm gonna make a found footage game. Great. Now I had my game style. All I need is to add a concept and context. I wanted this found footage to be watched in an interrogation room, so this means I needed an interrogator. My idea was to make this interrogation room this scene the player would have to return to after watching every found footage. I thought there could be 3 tapes that showcased all 3 key moments surrounding the murder, the lead up to, the actual incident, and the aftermath. This game was already getting very ambitious for a game jam, but I didn't stop there. I wanted the VHS tapes to be able to be played in any order the player wants. This would have given the same vibe the show Kaleidoscope had, where watching the episodes in a different order makes you experience the story in a different way. At the same time, I didn't want to reveal who the guy getting interrogated was, as we were watching the tapes and playing from the eyes of a cameraman. Now that my game had a place and reason, I needed some conflict. And who causes more conflict than a group of theater kids? And logically, the scene would have to also be a theater. So I went on Unity Store and tried to find perfect free assets in a sea of low poly junk. And somehow I found it. It was this clean Korean theater. And at this point I was feeling pretty confident I got this. Or so I thought. One of the main issues I had was the fact that the people and animations weren't really working as they should have. I got them all off Mixamo and for some reason they were tweaked out. So I spent about more or less 10 hours trying to fix this because I couldn't understand what was wrong. Initially I thought the problem came from Mixamo, but as you get to learn from game development, you slowly realize you're usually the problem. And after a moment of illumination, I realized that the issue came from how Unity handles IK and animations. If I would have went to the animation settings, I could have fixed this pretty quickly and not waste all this time. And after I accepted how my assets looked, I started making the character controller for the interrogation room and the one in the theater scene. In the interrogation room, I basically just wanted the head camera movement and also the ability to interact with the tapes on the table. Across from you, we'd have the interrogator, which is this very creepy looking guy, and he would be tapping his fingers to make you a bit more uneasy. I thought that would be a great horror thing. Yeah, great ideas. I wanted to be able to pick up the VHS tapes and put them in the VHS player, which seems very simple at first, but the orientation of the tapes was always messed up and never fit properly. To ease my suffering, I decided to make just a simple selection using E that locks the camera onto the selected tape and shows the name of the scene. It looked pretty cool and felt professional. With a functioning interrogation room, I could now start with scene 1. In the first scene, I wanted there to be a couple of characters: the director, the actors, the lead role high school jockey, and a creepy dude. So the cast ended up being Adam, the loud overconfident director who thinks he's the next Tarantino, Brian, the ex-lead role, now a creepy antisocial guy that everyone avoids, Katie, a quiet but emotional complex character, and Bryce, the typical high school jockey, arrogant and insecure, dating Katie mostly for status. I started thinking about these archetypes and how they would interact in this small drama. Adam brings out authority and pressure, Brian brings tension and mystery, Bryce fuels the conflict with his ego, and Katie balances everything emotionally, connecting both worlds. Their dynamics would come to slowly crumble through the tapes, revealing how each personality cracks when things start to go wrong. So in the first level, you basically go around and talk to them. I made this using another free asset since I have absolutely no time to code a conversation system myself, and some trigger boxes so the little conversations trigger automatically. I placed them around, and now hopefully if the player follows the logical flow of events, he should be able to first interact with the director that will prompt him to go get his clipboard from Brian. On the way up the stairs, you encounter Bryce and his girlfriend, Katie, and get bullied a bit. This creates character development. And upstairs you encounter Brian for the first time and understand why everyone thinks he's so strange. And I know what you're gonna say, this scene is very short and could have been done way better. But since I have limited time, I try to follow a skateboard mindset when creating anything. And you might be wondering what the skateboard mindset is. Well, let's say you get tasked to drawing a car. Instead of trying to draw a full, perfect car and risk running out of time with nothing finished, I start small, maybe a skateboard at first, then a scooter, then a bike, and finally the car. So that means even if I run out of time, I still have a complete working idea to show, and I can always iterate and add complexity later, which is exactly what I did with this game, focusing on a basic controller and story first, leaving the animations and sound for later. Anyways, I considered scene 1 to be done here. Done. Playable, so I moved forward trying to fix random bugs that appeared. Scene 2 was supposed to be the climax. Here, one of the kids dies. I knew I wanted to add a little timeline for the death scene, but I wanted the players to be free and roam around and not have it as a full cutscene where you're frozen. So I came up with some more spicy storytelling, and basically in this scene you were first encountering Brian, which further expands on his creepiness. Then you instinctively go to the theater where the director scared the shit out of you. Jesus Christ, I didn't expect that. He just screams at you because you're being a piece of shit cameraman. And now on stage we have the actors that move, if you look closely, and a new character, Katie's brother. He says that Katie's upset and you should go find her before the show starts. So I decided to put Katie up on the balcony and wait. Goose! You already made a task up on the balcony. You had to get a clipboard in the scene before. You're making the same task twice, basically. Shh. I know. I was very inspired to make this scene, but shut up, okay? I'm under a lot of pressure. This is my first game jam. When you go back up, Katie is crying, and here you get a bit more lore on what happened. And some spicy interactions between the camera boy and Katie. Now this further develops some motives and reasoning behind why and what might happen in the next few seconds. Right after the dialogue, I introduced this timeline. I added this with an event system that was already present in the dialogue asset I got, and after a bunch of animation, I finally had my murder. Yeah, I just fucking killed Bryce. And with this turning point, now the player might have a bit of a suspicion on who the killer might be, inclining towards Brian, but even Katie has become a viable suspect now. And when I was finally content with my work, I just came to a horrifying realization that ends up ruining this game jam for me completely.